Hello, everyone. This is day two. Now, let me make sure my settings are accurate because yesterday I didn't do too good with making sure that I was live. So let me check my settings just to make sure. A good friend of mine told me about this, so I should be good now. I am live where everyone can see me. I am on Instagram and I am on YouTube, the Teach Me Tribe station or channel. And so I just want to welcome you all to day two. I hope you all saw day one. And just like I said yesterday, if you saw me yesterday, I want these sessions to be, or I should say, these times to be interactive. So, if you would let me know, say hello to me, let me know if you saw day one yesterday. That was my intro and also just a little background about me and what I'm doing. And even if you catch the replay, let me know whether or not you have seen day one. And anytime you reply, please hashtag replay. Let me check my settings as well over here on Instagram just to make sure. I think I'm good. All right. Okay, so hopefully, once I get used to all of this, hopefully I will be doing a lot better. So, I am going to be asking a few questions. So, I really do want some responses, but I will also give you some information as well. So, you know that we are talking about co parenting, my journey to co parenting, and what it is that I'm actually doing during these 30 days. So, as I mentioned yesterday, the number one issue that I encountered in my research on co parenting was communication. So, does anyone agree that communication more than likely will probably be the number one issue in co parenting relationships? I mean, I think that it's the number one issue probably in most relationships, not just co parenting relationships. So, that definitely was not a surprise to me when I was hearing that or seeing that or reading that in my particular research. So, everything, I just want to make sure, I just want to lay some groundwork, and I'll probably do this every day when I talk. My focus is going to always be the child and what's best for the child. And everything that we discuss will go back to that and will encompass that. So when we're thinking about things, when we're talking about things, I want you to think about that. Can we all agree that our focus should be on the child when we're co-parenting? And and just as I mentioned yesterday, if you're healthy, then it's a certain way that you would think anyway. Um, so if we can agree upon that, that's awesome. So let's talk about the importance of emotionally healthy children. Um, and this is needed no matter what type of home the child is in. But remember, our focus is healthy co parenting relationships. So, as we discuss this, think about how many, or I should say, how this may actually apply to you and how you might have been impacted growing up by your parents' communication styles. I know when I was preparing to talk to you about this today, I thought about that. And even when I was creating the Child First Method, certain things about my upbringing came up, and I think that's pretty normal when we're talking about certain things. So here's the problem or the challenge that as it relates to communication issues or conflicts, since we are talking about the number one issue that that came up in research. So communication issues and conflicts, it negatively impacts the emotional well-being and development of the children, and it leads to potential long-term consequences. Do you agree on that? Can you see that? Can you see that? Hey Josh. Hey Miss Harris. So can you agree that it can lead to long-term consequences? Just the impact of the child. So if you can think about some examples of how communication issues and between co-parents can impact the child, think about it. Does anyone have anything that they might want to put in the chat? While you're thinking, I can tell you one: emotional distress and anxiety. That's pretty huge. I mean, because if you think about it, children are constantly developing. We are their role models, and just the ongoing communication issues and conflicts, it really nurtures an atmosphere that is not healthy for the child, and it will cause some exposure to the constant arguments and hostility, unresolved issues, and it caused the children to really become emotionally distressed, anxious, and they begin to really feel insecure and internalize a lot of what's going on. So think about that. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on how that can really impact the child? The second thing is low self-esteem and self-worth. You might say, well, I don't really talk about, anything around my child. But when you do, when the children actually observe their parents engaging in frequent arguments or displaying disrespect. Now, I will say consistent, frequently, ongoing. And those things, those repetitive things, that's what impacts the child. That's what plays on, um, their psyche. So when these children observe these frequent behaviors and these frequent um, communication issues and conflicts, they do internalize the negative messages that they're hearing, and it in turns impact their value. So, just like I said before, you might say to yourself, "Well, I really don't." Hey, Eric, I really don't talk to my ex around my children. But I want you to ask yourself, what are you saying when he's not there, or when she's not there? What are you saying when your child can be in earshot of a conversation that you might have with a friend or a family member on the phone? That definitely makes a difference. And you will really be surprised how impactful energy can be, and how it can be transferred in environments. So if just think about it, when you go into a certain space, if the energy is high, it's positive, you're feeling all this warmth and love, then you feel that. But when the energy or when the environment is heavy or low or sad, For example, a funeral, you feel that, especially if you're an empath. If it's positive, um, like a wedding, why am I talking about weddings and funerals? But you know what I mean, the example. You feel that energy. So think about that with your child. That your child feels that energy. They know exactly what's going on. And that nonverbal communication is powerful. One other thing that up is poor emotional regulation as it relates to your child. You know, and sometimes I think we as adults, we've dealt with so many things as children, it really rolls over into our adulthood, and we learn how to not manage our emotions. So this poor emotional regulation, it has a lot to do with managing your emotions. It has a lot to do with you being that positive role model that I was talking about earlier for emotional expression, for um, managing conflict. So if you're not illustrating that for your child, then they will actually model some of those behaviors, and they will, you know, learn how to not cope with stress because they're not dealing with the emotions that are going on within them. And there's also increased emotional outbursts. Have you ever seen an adult have a temper tantrum? That is an adult who does not know how to manage their emotions. We should never see an adult that has a temper tantrum. That person has poor emotional regulation. So, and then emotional withdrawal. I have definitely been guilty of this, just to be transparent. And I know a lot of times in relationships and more intimate relationships, a lot of these things will come up as well because we have not adequately addressed those things. So let's see what are we saying in the comments here? Oh yeah, the runner. Yeah, Tiffany. Oh yeah. I feel you. Yeah, I've been the same way. Yeah, Eric. I've definitely been a runner. Yeah, and really someone who just runs away from issues in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be um, a relationship. It can be anything. It can be a challenge. Anything that would challenge their emotion, anything that will push them outside of their comfort zone. And one more thing I wanted to mention is behavior problems. We bad, but it's not always their fault that they're bad. And I really don't like calling kids bad because I know it's a reason why children behave the way they do. So when we're thinking about how we need to communicate effectively, how we need to manage our emotions with one another, think about how that is impacting our child and our children. So, as a reminder, my desire. I know I mentioned a lot of negative things that can impact our children emotionally if we don't have the right environments. But I kind of want to remind you that my desire is to help co parents establish and maintain healthy relationships with one another. And by doing so, this is a solution for this. And it can lead to emotionally healthy children. Now, I'm not talking about perfect children, because as we know, no one is perfect, but they have a much better chance of being emotionally healthy when we are emotionally healthy. So, this promise, it recognizes that positive co-parenting directly influences emotional well-being of the child that's involved. And the child first method that I talk about, that I've established, it focuses on effective communication. It focuses on partnership, collaboration, honoring the other parent's role, involvement with the child, and prioritizing the child's best interest. So these strategies, they actually create an environment that fosters emotional health in the children. So what are your thoughts about that? I see we have Eric and we have a few on Instagram. Does anyone have any thoughts in regards to how we can proficiently communicate and how it can positively impact our child, our children? Well, I definitely, um, okay, Eric, I appreciate that. Yeah. Um, and I guess as we continue on, before I end, I really want to talk about the importance of emotionally healthy children. I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper as we've talked about the negative aspects of what can happen. And I know you all have probably heard statistics of, the higher or more likely that children will drop out of school if they have divorced parents and things of that nature. So we have all of these negative statistics as it relates to divorce, but I'm here to bring hope. Just because our children um, are not in the home with us every day, that does not mean they cannot grow up emotionally healthy and whole. Um, Eric said that they will pattern themselves off of the parents. That's so true. That's so true. And that is why our main focus has to be the children. It has to be the children. And in turn, we're actually helping ourselves. We're making sure that we're healthy as parents because we want to be the best for our children. So I want to talk about a couple things in regards to the importance of emotionally healthy children. Let's think about the improvement in social skills. Think about that. How, you know, when your child can communicate, they know how to communicate with other people. They know how to share things that are actually demonstrated in front of them, in regards to positive connections and interactions, learning how to establish boundaries and engage in effective communication, with other people that they're around. It really, and it's so funny because I tell one of my children, I'm not going to tell you which one it is because I want to embarrass them. But one of my children, I tell them, I'm not going to say he or her, I tell them, nobody wants to be your friend when you are blank, blank, blank. And that's the truth. I mean, even as an adult, and I tell them, even when you are grown, it's certain people that you just want to be around and that you don't want to be around. So you have to decide what type of person you're going to be, what type of friend you're going to be. Are you going to be the type of person that just gets upset every time someone disagrees with you? Are you going to be that kind of friend, or are you going to listen, you know, and appreciate someone else's opinion? So improve social skills. Another thing I definitely want to mention is the enhancement of mental health. as you know, I'm an advocate for mental health. So just the perspective of how our child can be impacted positively or negatively mentally, it really plays on how they are, how emotionally healthy they are. So so equipping them with emotional intelligence and coping strategies, you kind of you help them to be able to fight anxiety, fight depression. You're giving them tools that they can use um, to where they can operate and function, not even as children, but as adults. And just imagine one more thing. Just imagine how this impacts their self esteem and their self worth. When you think about how healthy they are mentally, how they can communicate with others, how it impacts their social skills. And in turn, I'm pretty sure not only will they feel good about themselves, have that positive, they'll be more confident, but they will also, they're more likely to perform academically well, because they are confident, they're motivated, they're more resilient as it relates to um, their mental health. And give me your thoughts. You have any thoughts in regards to this? Can you see yourself in any of the things that I talked about today? Can you see your children in anything that I've talked about today? I think that's definitely important, just to have that sense of awareness. Remember, I talked yesterday about, how I went through a process of self discovery and self awareness, and I believe our children, they're a great mirror for us so we can actually see ourselves. I've heard people say, "You act just like your dad. You act just like your mama." Well, what is it that you need to improve upon? Especially if you're talking negative. If it's positive, that's fine. But if it's something negative that that person is talking about, don't get mad at the child. You know, look at yourself in the mirror and find out, okay, what is it that I can do to be better? As a parent, where my child will definitely all types of parenting, definitely. Yeah, not just co-parenting. I think the only difference with the co-parenting aspect that's different from other parents that are in the house with the kids is that you have to be more intentional with what you're doing when they're in your home, because you really don't know what's going on outside of your home. So just the intentionality of what it is that you're doing in the home is so essential. So the child first method, it really equips co-parents with the tools and strategies to prioritize their child's emotional health and well-being. And it's going to result in long-term outcomes, positive outcomes for the child. So please, if you have anything else that you want to um, discuss along this journey, I have some things planned. But if you want to ask any questions, because I definitely appreciate you all joining every day. Remember, I might not be live every day at 5, but it's definitely my intent to join every day at 5, live at 5. And if not, I will definitely send a message that will inspire you on your journey in co-parenting. And just like Eric said, I mean, you can take it for all types of parents as well, this information. So, as I conclude, I will see you all next time. And if you do have any questions, you can email teachmetribe@gmail.com. You can email me there, teachmetribe@gmail.com, and I will be happy to answer any questions during the time that I am doing these lives. So I guess that is it for today. And I definitely appreciate you all joining me. I appreciate your attention. And I'm open to your feedback, your comments, your disputes, anything. Just share it with me. So until then, I will see you tomorrow.